All right, Mr. Mayor, we are live and ready when you are.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's a meeting of the Seldovia City Council, Tuesday, May 27th, 2025. Time is 6:07 p.m. And we'll go ahead and do roll call. Barber.
Here.
Peyton. Harmony, you there? We'll come back to her. Keith Lee.
Be a daily.
Langbart.
Here.
Okay, and Peyton. Okay, we'll have to hold tight here because we need her. You there, Harmony?
I'm sorry, I didn't realize my volume was on mute.
Okay.
They're taking a while.
Okay, you're here. Okay, so let's see. And Rojas is absent. She's traveling tonight. And as some of you may have read in the city manager's laydown, Councilmember Kennedy has submitted his resignation today. So we are down to 5 council members, 4 being present for this meeting, 1 absent. So we do have a quorum, and we will move on. And Liz or Heidi, if you could lead us off in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. As we had mentioned, we have Rojas as an excused absence tonight. Item D, agenda approval. We'll go ahead and look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Langbart to approve tonight's agenda with a second by Keith Lee. Any further discussion on the agenda before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of tonight's agenda. All those in favor, Barber.
Aye.
Peyton.
Aye.
Keith Lee.
Aye.
Langbart.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with 4 in the affirmative and 1 absent. Item E, consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are approved with a single motion, no discussion, and 1 vote. A council member may request to remove any item for discussion and a separate vote. Any items removed from the consent agenda will be placed under new business. Tonight's consent agenda consists of 1 item, that is the minutes of the regular meeting, May 12th, 2025, and those are in your laydown packet. And that is it for the consent agenda. Does any member at this time request to remove any item for further discussion on the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and look for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Get a deckhand on there.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's what agenda?
Consent agenda.
Consent agenda.
Okay. And do we have a second?
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Langbart to approve tonight's consent agenda. We have a second by Peyton. Any further discussion on the consent agenda before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of tonight's consent agenda. All those in favor, Barber.
Aye.
Peyton.
Aye.
Keith Lee. And Langbart.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with 4 in the affirmative and 1 absent. Item F, mayoral proclamations, we have none. Item G, public presentation, prior notice. Oh, we don't have anybody signed up. Liz, that's still the case?
That is still the case. I was looking for anybody online, but it does not look like we have anybody either.
Okay. Item H, public presentation for items not on the agenda. Do we have anyone either, I don't see anyone in the audience, anyone online that wanted to speak tonight?
No, Mr. Mayor, we do not.
Okay. Item I, committee and advisory board reports. We have none. Item J, administrative reports, none. And first item of business tonight is item K1. This is a public hearing for ordinance 25-12A, a non-code ordinance of the city of Seldovia, Alaska, accepting the FY 2026 fee schedule, Appendix A of the fiscal year 2026 budget. This can be found on page 5 of your packet, and we'll go ahead and let the city manager speak to this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As stated, this starts on page 5 of your packet. The fee schedule follows that. The changes to the fee schedule are highlighted in green. Pretty simple changes this year. There was a 2.9% cost of living or CPI increase for some of the user rates for water and sewer and harbor. We did not increase the rates for the daily mortgage rates or annual mortgage rates, but did for the 6-month and the monthly. And did add in language for a zoning amendment application, $250. And then I also wanted to request that we amend the fee schedule, the draft fee schedule, by adding in in the laydown a charge for RV pumping or dumping for the lift station. That's something that we had in there from FY 22 prior, but due to the condition of our lift station, we removed it in FY 23 and FY 24. I'm happy to report that the new lift station pumps are up and running well, and our crew actually was able to pump out some of the outhouses in the community, the city portable restrooms and outhouses, and utilize the lift station. It went well. We actually had a request from somebody else about potentially doing some gray water dumping in the future for a business, and that they wanted to dump gray water for their business. And we do have the occasional RV or motor home that would like to dump if it's an option. And we have done it in an emergency basis in the last couple of years, but before that we would do it as needed. So in your laydown on page 6, there is a updated page 15 of the fee schedule, and at the bottom you'll see lift station dump fees, RVs and motorhomes, $52.50 an occurrence. We do charge higher than other communities because it does take personnel to be on site to complete that dumping, and that's what the rate was in 2022. So going back to that rate, if that suits the council, that would be an addition I would recommend to the fee schedule. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. So you'd be looking for us to do a formal amendment then to the fee schedule prior to passing the ordinance or voting on the ordinance?
Yeah, if you wanted to make it, well, I think you could pass the ordinance with the fee schedule as amended.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. And we'll go ahead and open it up to the council for discussion at this time. Any questions, comments for the manager?
No, that sounds great, Heidi. I think that's a great idea to add that in there.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Anyone else?
I'll just comment and say that looks and sounds great, Heidi.
Okay, thank you, Meg. Okay, I'll just chime in real quick. Yeah, I'm also in support of the fee schedule as amended. I know we had gone through this a number of times during the budget process. There was no big moves this year on this, which was nice. Just our typical, most of it was our typical COLA increases. So, which was nice. So I will be in support of the fee schedule as amended. Any other comments, questions for the manager before we go to the public? Okay, Liz, do we have anyone from the public online at all that wishes to comment on ordinance 25-12?
I'm not seeing any hands raised, Mr. Mayor, so no.
Okay, we'll go ahead and bring ordinance 25-12 with the amended fee schedule back to council for final action.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended fee schedule as written.
I'll go ahead and second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Keith Lee to approve ordinance 25-12 as amended on the fee schedule. We have a second by Langbart. Any further discussion on ordinance 25-12 as amended before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of ordinance 25-12 as amended. All those in favor, Barber,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
Keithley,
Aye.
and Langbart.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with 4 in the affirmative and 1 absent. Okay, thank you, everyone. That'll move us on to our next item of business, item K2, ordinance 25-12B, a non-code ordinance of the city of Seldovia, Alaska, appropriating funds, Appendix B, annual budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026. And that'll be found on page 22 of your packet. And we'll go ahead and let the city manager present on this one as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this budget as written as previously discussed, you can find the manager's message on page 29 that discusses some of those more significant changes. I am pleased to present a balanced budget this year, with the exception of the dock fund is in the red, but it does balance out with the rest of the budget. And of course, we know that that depends on how many stops we have from the AMHS service that we receive. So if we receive more stops, then that will balance out. And if not, then it will be in the red. Just some basic changes to the budget to start. FY26 personnel changes include a 2.9% cost of living adjustment for employees, with the exception of staff wages determined through third-party contract. That's AMHS and Seattle Community Center. Additionally, administrative wages were reallocated from the water and sewer special revenue funds to admin, council, and public works to better reflect staff time and alleviate additional burden on the water and sewer special revenue funds. For health insurance, we had a 4.5% increase included in the budget per our insurer. That was the recommendation. And for general liability insurance, we included a 10% increase, but I am pleased to say, and you'll see this in the city manager's report, that we received our contributions summary for FY26 from APRA, which was formerly AMLJIA. Now they've joined with the other major public insurer in the states to one company, Alaska Public Risk Alliance. And we are actually at about 25% less than we were last year in our insurance with the current rate. So that is very exciting. I don't know that we need to amend the budget just in case something comes up, but it is in there at the rate that we were anticipating with the 10% increase, and we're not seeing that. So that's very exciting. Under the general fund, we also had a significant change where we are closing the multipurpose building fund and no longer utilizing that, and then reestablishing the library and the Seldovia space fund. This was due in part to requests from some of the entities that operate within this building for what the in-kind match and contributions that the city provides for those services. So we're better able to track them by taking the utilities that were appropriated to the multipurpose building and redistributing them back out across the services that are within the building, as well as because we wanted to track Seldovia space costs a little bit closer. And with that only left the library without a fund. So with that, you'll see the multipurpose building zeroed out, that department fund, I should say, and the library and Seldovia space were reestablished. Those were pretty much the most significant changes for the FY26 budget. Under general fund revenues, we did receive preliminary tax figures from KPB, and they did seem to hold steady, if not have a slight increase. So those rates remain steady for the FY26 budget. And then for the FY26 state revenue sharing through the Community Assistance Program, it's estimated to be about $25,000 lower than it was last year. So that is a little bit of a decrease. And that was allocated or appropriated by the City Council to general liability insurance and audit expenses through just regular general fund expenses. For the FY26 general fund review page, it does include an overview of funds assigned payable to the general fund, major maintenance and repair fund, capital improvement fund, the fuel retail facility fund that was established in the FY25 budget, 2% sales tax fund, Seldovia permanent fund, and a police public safety reserve fund, as well as other funds. And I just want to point this out so that we keep on top of this as we move forward through the year, that you'll see those in, I believe they're blue or gray on page 47. They're in blue, and those are assigned funds by the council. And they do exceed, as our auditor had mentioned previously, they do exceed our ending fund balance that we are estimating to be at $346,016 for the end of FY26. And our assigned funds are estimated to be $588,711, leaving a difference of $242,695. We are making gains every year to be able to cover that assigned fund balance, but in order to have a healthy ending fund balance target, we would want to meet that assigned fund total plus the 2-month revenue target. For this year, it would be $146,626, totaling $735,337. So we're almost halfway there, and or about halfway there. And I do think that we'll continue. We know we budget high for expenses and a little bit low for revenues in order to be on the safe side. So I think as long as we continue to trend the way we are, we will continue to make gains on that ending fund balance. Special revenue funds, not a lot of changes through them other than the reappropriation of some of the staff time from water and sewer into the general fund. And we do have the 2.9% consumer price index increase for inflation across most of the funds. And those are from the fee schedule for those services that we provide. Senior meals, we are keeping an eye on. We actually submitted the grant today for the state, and that's the bigger portion of the funds that are provided for that program. We're requesting $50,230. If we receive that, that's what's in the budget, and that will be a healthy healthy budget for the program. And if not, then we'll come back to council and we'll be having a discussion on what that means moving forward for the program, depending on what we do or do not receive from the state. Water and sewer special revenue funds, besides the reappropriation of administrative wages. You also see capital project funds included for water treatment plant replacement parts, acrylic urethane sealer to reseal the water storage tank roof, and matching funds for the purchase of 2 new pumps for the SLU sewer lift station. So as mentioned by Councilmember Kennedy prior, making sure that we keep track of the fact that we do have a state revolving fund that's available for us, a loan with a 75% forgiveness in order to purchase those pumps for that lift station. I did check and make sure that those funds are still available. So we will start that process now that once the match is approved in the budget for fiscal year 26. Doc, we already discussed, is in the red, and we know we need 96 stops or additional revenues in order for the balance to fund. We did also appropriate $5,000 from the major maintenance and repair fund, the dock portion of that fund, for crane maintenance and inspection this year. I did receive a quote back today for, I think it was about $1,900, and they would be here in March 2026, and that's for an inspection. But we know that we need to do some work before that. So the rest of the funds would go towards trying to get somebody over here and do some maintenance and just seeing what needs to be done for those cranes. Let's see, harbor is again the 2.9% increase. We did not increase the daily moorage fee and the annual fee, as there are some of the largest in the state, at least the daily moorage and the annual is significant. So we don't want to push too many people away, and that's in a pretty healthy place right now. We also included $21,000 in harbor improvements as capital projects through the port fee, and that will go to replace 5 additional finger hinge pins, 7 electrical pedestals, and make improvements to the bottom of the harbor building siding, as well as for our maintenance employees. So we have a part-time employee in the harbor who just provides maintenance down there, and that's been really beneficial to get some of the smaller and bigger things done throughout the year, and we're receiving pretty positive feedback for that. So hopefully that continues. Boat haul out, again, 2.9% inflation increase with that CPI for wages, salaries, and user fees. And then $5,000 in capital projects was appropriated for large and small boatyard electric improvements, and that was not appropriated out of the MMRF. That was actually available in the budget, so that was really nice to see. And then no changes for the Seldovia Permanent Fund, Major Maintenance and Repair Fund. We already discussed the assigned funds. We also want to recognize in the FY26 the unassigned fund that 42,000 of that has been appropriated in cash match for the Seldovia Fuel and Lube roof replacement project. I was wrong with my number when we previously discussed. I had a lot larger number because I hadn't included the expenses this year that were appropriated from the MMRF. So really that does drop that unassigned fund balance for the MMRF back down to 14,000. That's okay. The MMRF itself is over 200,000 and is assigned across the different funds. This was just the unassigned portion of funds that's coming in through our interest. So as long as that works for council, that will still cover, and that fund should still continue to grow. And then as discussed, 5,000 for the crane maintenance from MMRF. And then the council also through ordinance appropriated at a more recent meeting, 30,000 from reimbursement grant we received for the water service line inventory into the MMRF, the water portion of the MMRF. So you will see that that's already been appropriated by council but you'll see that in this budget, that fund is increased by 30,000. For the fuel retail CIP fund, those monthly 5% of those monthly rents are going into a CIP fund for future needs on that building. And then I think if I'm looking through here real quick, everything else pretty much same as status quo. If you want a good look at what those reserve funds are overall, that is on page 93 of the budget, with the FY26 City of Seldovia Capital Projects and Reserve Fund definitions and capital project budget to follow on page 94, and then 95 continuing. So you can see it's a little bit small. Sorry, it ended up in portrait instead of landscape like it's supposed to be. But you can see those funds all in all totaling over 710,000 and 90, oof, that's hard to read, $3.82 in the total AMLIP revenue. And then Charles Schwab is at $338.07. So, and that fund has, we've seen a lot of ups and downs recently with it. So we did budget for more in FY26. Or sorry, FY25, it was at 607 was what we were anticipating, but we're not quite there to date. So the 606 reflects more to date what that fund is, and then we'll update it as we get to final numbers at the end of the year. And so that's pretty much the overall overview for the budget. And if you have any questions, definitely let me know. You'll see that we have our budget process and fund structure to follow, some draft legislation from once it passes that'll go into this, our code on Seldovia Permanent Fund, and then you'll see the council priorities and then the budget to follow. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
I have a question, Heidi. On the transit parking, you raised it. Or I have two questions actually. For boats that are up to 32 feet, where did I see it? I've been jumping around. Yeah, the day rate is $43 or something. Is that? Where did we?
Yes. Yep. And so that was from FY25, and we did not change it for FY26. It remains the same for a 32-foot boat.
For a 32-foot is $43 and some change.
For a day. Yep.
For a day.
Plus.
How much of that transit parking makes up what kind of revenue is received from that? Or do you have that total?
Not in front of me. I'd have to bring back that breakout.
Okay, and the reason I'm two things is the sales taxes. We're gonna additional 2% on the sales tax, and what does that bring the total sales tax to then?
So the sales tax does not go into the harbor; it goes into the general fund.
Yeah, right. But what is the sale? If you add the 2%, what's it gonna top out at?
So 9.5 total, and that includes borough and city. City is 6.5, and the borough is 3%.
Okay. The only concern I have about the day rate on the harbor is I heard a comment and they thought, they'd anchor out and swim ashore. Okay. I mean, we don't want to run people off, and I don't know if that's standard with everybody. I'd just like to know, is that what Homer, or is that are we above normal pricing?
We are above normal, and we are aware of that, which is why we didn't increase rates this year.
Okay. Just want to think about it.
Yeah, I think for FY24 and FY25, we've kept the same.
Because if they actually came to town and was to purchase goods or do anything, you pick it up on the other side.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, through the mayor. And so speaking with the harbor master, that's something that we are aware of and we are watching. We have this discussion annually, and in discussing again with her this year, she felt really comfortable if we don't change it, because people are used to what the price is now. They're aware of it for the most part. People who are coming at least the repeat customers know what to expect. So not messing with it one way or another, leaving it as is, and knowing that we are high, so we don't want to go higher unless we need to.
Anyone else with additional questions for the city manager regarding ordinance 25-12?
No, just want to say I appreciate all your hard work as always, Heidi. Every year, it's always a long process, and I think we're doing a great job.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. I'll just chime in real quick. Yeah, obviously a lot of work again on the budget. Things are yeah, not perfect, but pretty solid from where we were a number of years ago. We seem to be headed in the right direction on most of our funds. You know, without having to do big nasty increases on everything. So and that's, yeah, I mean, I don't take that lightly. You know, when we start talking about increases to the locals, especially when it comes down to you know, a lot of these utilities and you know, additional taxes and stuff. We've done what we've had to do to keep our city on stable ground, to where we can provide the, you know, the basic services that the community expects. So I think we've done a good job of trying to spread that out, you know, to folks that, you know, to some of the visitors, and then and you know, keeping it as affordable as we can for those folks that live here year round. So yeah, nice work, everyone. Lots of different iterations and discussions, but at the end of the day, I definitely support the budget and the passage of ordinance 25-12. Any additional comments, questions before we go on to public? Okay. Liz, do we have anyone from the public that wishes to weigh in on ordinance 25-12?
We do not have anybody signed up, and I'm seeing nobody online, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, we'll go ahead and bring ordinance 25-12 back to council for final action this evening. Don't be shy.
I don't have nothing.
Okay, go ahead, Ashley.
Sorry, I'm trying to open the Zoom in to say the thing right. I kept going back to the Zoom on here. I'm on my phone today. All right. I would like to make a motion to accept ordinance 25-12 be a non-coordinate ordinance of the city of Seldovia, Alaska, appropriate, or no, that's not the right one.
Yep, you're good.
It
Yep,
is,
that's
okay,
correct.
perfect. Appropriating funds, Appendix B, annual budget for, there we go, fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026.
Perfect.
All right, I'll go ahead and second that.
All right, we have a motion by Keith Lee to approve ordinance 25-12B. We do have a second by Langvard. Any further discussion before we vote on ordinance 25-12B? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of ordinance 25-12B. All those in favor, Barber,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
Keithley,
Aye.
Langbart.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with 4 in the affirmative and 1 absent. So that is our annual budget. So it's passed. Thank you, everyone, for that. That'll go ahead and take us on to item L, unfinished business, none. Item M, new business, none. And item N, city manager's report, and this will be in your laydown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So real quick, we've already talked about a couple of these things. For instance, Councilmember Kennedy's letter of resignation. So at the next city council meeting, there will be an action memorandum declaring a council seat vacancy presented to council for approval. And then a public notice will be issued following that, seeking qualified candidates for that vacant seat. And that will be to appoint an individual to the seat until the next regular election. We are expecting a visit from AMLJIA, and as I mentioned, they are changing to APRA, but that happens July 1. So this will be from AMLJIA on May 30th with Kirsten Vessel. She's the risk control specialist, and she'll be here to perform a site visit of the city properties. I also already mentioned the FY26 contribution notice of contribution. So that is a decrease and a little bit of a savings in the budget. Very exciting. We were able to submit 2 land acquisition proposals for the 2025 KB NER infrastructure funding project. Shout out that they did for projects. One was for the University of Alaska parcel surrounding the water treatment, and that should say plant and not plan. And one was for the Rainier properties around Trina Lake. The property owners in both areas have been approached. We did hear back about the Trina Lake properties, and there is interest there, and potentially selling the majority of those parcels with maybe a conservation easement through one of them if they retained it. So we look forward to those ongoing conversations with KB NER and the Ketchimek Heritage Land Trust and property owners, and seeing what that means for Seldovia and how that benefits our community. Additionally, I'd like to throw out there the reminder again that we do have an invitation to attend the Ketchimek Bay NER Freshwater Resource Workshop at the Homer Reservoir. That's on June 6th. I did hear from Councilmember Barber that he has an interest to attend. So if any other council members would like to go, please let us know so we can make sure to arrange travel. I will be planning on going myself as long as nothing comes up. And certainly, we would love to make sure that anybody who wants to go is able to do that. So if you guys could let us know by the end of the week, that would be great. And then we'll make sure to have that travel arranged beforehand. And that'll just be a day trip over and back. So moving on, Jackalope Bay Dock Replacement Project. We did receive a letter of approval from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and should be receiving the letter of concurrence from the National Marine Fisheries Service this week. We are also, I just signed the local multi-agency permit for the Kenai River Center. So that will be submitted this week, as well as to the Army Corps. And once all of these permits are back and wrapped up, they will be able to wrap up the NEPA and submit that to MARAD. Additionally, so you guys are aware, the environmental specialist, the person who working on our environmental review with us through MARAD, is scheduled for a site visit here on June 9th. So as long as that continues to be approved budget-wise for her, she will be here, and we'll have a representative from Moffett and Nickel here from our environmental team, just in case there's any questions that come up. But that'll be the focus, is looking at that site from an environmental view. And please let me know if you're interested in being a part of that conversation as well. Additionally, we received an update from the EPA today about the raw water transmission line replacement project. That application has been sent, or the funding request was sent to the grants office for award, and they're hoping that it will be awarded this week. Once that award goes through, a resolution authorizing the issuance of a request for proposals for the design build will be presented to the city council for approval. And then hopefully that means we can move forward and replace that bottom portion of the raw water transmission line. The city office and maintenance shop energy improvement project, quick update. We did receive 4 bids for the RFP for spray foam insulation, as one of the components of that project. All bids did exceed the project budget. So, the proposers were notified we are not going to move forward in that direction. Unfortunately, we have to go back to the table and we're going to open up, submit a new budget that'll be on the next agenda for the council to approve, that expands that project scope to allow for additional types of insulation and make sure that we're clear what that budget is, to see what kind of proposals we can get, to add some additional insulation to that facility. We also had an issue come up, with our aqua RFPs, and we needed to extend that deadline. One of the proposers, we had some interesting things with a couple of the proposers. And so with a request to have some more time to be able to submit those proposals. And we have done that to June 9th. So, we will hopefully have that on the next council meeting as well to approve those RFPs or those proposals, the awards for them. AML grant writing services. We had a kickoff meeting with AML's grant writer. We discussed the city's top 3 projects, just looking at what we haven't made progress on, where we need to go, and keeping in mind that a lot of grants we do write in-house and we write them fairly successfully. So when we're putting money towards these people that are going to be searching for grants for us and then writing grants for us, for instance, like they did for the PIDP, making sure we get the biggest bang for our buck. So in talking about what the city's top 3 projects were, currently we discussed the Upper Dam Improvements Project, the Historic Boardwalk Bay Street Improvements Project, and the Harbor Waterfront Boardwalk Project. And that was done thinking about that the state is potentially going to open up their requests for projects for the STIP this fall if they continue to follow their normal 3-year cycle. Of course, there's been some things that have been up in the air recently, so they can't promise that that's going to happen or not, but we're hoping that they continue to follow their regular pattern. And if that's the case, then it would be great to get these projects into the STIP, at least the Historic Boardwalk Bay Street Improvements Project, as a community transportation project, and then the Harbor Waterfront Boardwalk Project as a transportation alternative program, as well as they'll look at other funding sources for all 3 projects. The dam is an interesting one because I haven't seen a lot of available funding sources for that. So it'll be great to have them looking out and trying to hunt down some options for that. As well, we also talked about the value-added building waterfront area and a new heavy equipment storage complex. I know we're going to start discussing the capital improvement plan again with council here in 2 months, but certainly if you have any other projects in the CIP that you would like us to focus on or have AML focus on instead, please let me know, so that we make sure that we are capturing the projects that mean the most to the council. 2014 comprehensive plan update. I'm really excited to announce that the virtual meeting page for the 2014 comprehensive plan went live today, or no, sorry. That was a comment from the last meeting. We are requesting public input on the plan's goals and focus areas by June 16th with the goal of hosting an in-person meeting to follow. AML is also working on an updated draft of the plan regarding the community data. I've seen a few copies of that draft so far, and it's looking really well. So once we are able to get that community input, we should be able to implement that into the plan and provide a draft back to the Planning Commission and then to the council to look at how we're moving forward. So if you have not gone to that page yet for the Seldovia Comprehensive Plan, the virtual meeting page, please do so. Please fill it out. That feedback from the community is really important in guiding and shaping this update as we move forward. I also wanted to give an update on the Seldovia Planning Commission, their June 4th regular meeting. We're working on scheduling that, or working on the agenda for that. And currently that commercial business district ordinance with council comments will be presented from the work session on May 14th, along with a draft abatement ordinance, a discussion on zoning versus building permit requirements, including topographical impacts, and a discussion on that 2014 comprehensive plan update. Couple last minute things with that CDBG grant award. I just wanted to make sure that stays at the front and center of everybody's thoughts as we work through the pre-award requirements and environmental review. State senior meals grant, as I stated earlier, was submitted today. The pressure washer, I regret to inform you guys, is down right now. It's having some electrical issues, so it's taken the power out in that building. We are in the process of having an electrician come over and inspect the facility. Until then, signs have been posted that the pressure washer and public bathroom are out of order. Spring cleanup project week was supposed to happen May 19th through the 22nd and was postponed. It was just too many things happening at once. We're looking at new dates for June or possibly splitting up the project dates through the summer. If you have any ideas on projects you would like to see done, please let me know. Right now we're looking at Lake Susan Trail work, community trash pickup days, Seldovia cemetery work, and the Rocky Ridge Trail needs some repair as well. And that might actually need some equipment. So our public works crew was looking at that the other day and talking about potentially getting the backhoe up there and doing a little bit more heavy duty cleanup with some of those fallen trees that are in the area. Employment vacancies and hiring. I'd like to welcome aboard Kenny Pigeon. He was hired as a backup line handler and refuse collector. Riley was hired as a public works operator in training and will begin June 2nd. And we're still looking for a backup for senior meals cook and assistant cook. I did receive an application on my desk today, so that's exciting. I would also like to ask council if they are open to postponing the June 9th meeting and moving that regular meeting to June 16th. And then possibly, depending on business, holding only the one meeting in June, because I know everybody's feeling pretty burnt out and we've been through a long budget process among other business that needed to be conducted. So potentially just having the one meeting if there isn't anything else. One of the reasons for this is the city clerk Diamond received that scholarship to attend the professional development training level 2 in Tacoma, Washington, June 8th through the 13th. So she'll be out of the office during that June 9th meeting. We can still hold it without her, but I know that with a small staff, it's easier if we are available. So I would love feedback on that if that works for you guys to just have that June 16th meeting instead. I would also want to point out lastly, well, not lastly, there's a couple more, sorry. A final report was approved and recommended to the Assembly from the KPB Tourism Industry Working Group with 3 recommendations, and that was on their Thursday, May 16th meeting. They recommended that implementing a bed tax to recover industry costs was not warranted. To explore implementing a seasonal tax instead, that would be 4% in the summer and 2% in the winter instead of their year-long 3%, or to take no action. The borough is having a meeting on June 3rd, and I haven't had a chance to look and see if there was anything on the agenda related to this topic, but that I believe it was at their last meeting. And so that recommendation has moved forward, and we'll keep an eye on it and let you guys know if we hear anything back in particular about that sales tax restructuring recommendation. The Jack Bluff Bay Dock funding match paperwork is still going through and working through the Denali Commission on that. Everything seems to be going just fine, just making sure you guys are still aware that that's happening. And then for the Susan B. English School pool closure, the Seldovia Recreational Service Area made a request to increase the service area mill rate by 0.25% to the Assembly to help fund the pool. The borough mayor is supporting this request, which should be included in the borough budget through an amendment at their June 3rd meeting. And additionally, the Seldovia Recreational Service Area will be holding a meeting on June 3rd to discuss next steps. believe everything else you've seen in previous packets, and please let me know if you have any questions, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. First of all, does anyone have any objection to that June 16th meeting and only having the one meeting in June? I definitely support that, especially with everyone starting to get really busy, and we have had our share of meetings here in the last couple months.
I am good with that, Mr. Mayor.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I assume most folks would be good with having one meeting instead of two. If we can manage to do that, then great, Heidi. And if there's something else that comes up that requires us to have a special meeting or something, we can do that. But let's plan on for now just going with the one meeting on June 16th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, then real quick, and I forgot to talk about this earlier on yeah, that was a very welcome savings on our general liability and workman's comp, because we've taken kind of a beating on that the last 3-4 years. So that was nice to see the change, and almost a 25% savings this year. So that definitely does not go unnoticed for sure. Anyone else? Any questions, comments for the city manager's report? Okay, great. Thank you, Heidi. Yep, lots of good information. Appreciate all the updates on there. So that'll go ahead and take us to item O, informational items not requiring action. We have none tonight. And then item P, executive session. It looks like we are going to be in for an executive session tonight, and I'll look for a motion on that.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we enter into an executive session to discuss ways to limit liability to the city of Seldovia and individual council members pursuant to AS 44.62.310C1 matters, the immediate knowledge of which would clearly have an adverse effect upon the finances of the public entity, and invite in the city manager and the city attorney. Such discussions are within attorney-client privilege and not open for public review.
I'll
Okay.
go ahead and second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, perfect. We have a motion by member Keithley to enter into executive session per her motion, and we have a second by Langvart. Any further discussion on the motion before we vote to enter into executive session? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the motion to enter into an executive session. All those in favor, Barber,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
Keithley,
Aye.
and Langvart.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We will go ahead and pause this meeting for a given time here to enter into executive session. There was a separate link that was sent to you, so we'll have to sign out of this one, sign into the new secure link that was emailed to us. And then we will, when we're finished up, we'll come back out, finish up this meeting, and then we'll be done for the night. So and then we'll go ahead and have Heidi as the city manager and our city attorney, Joe Levesque, participate as well in the executive session. So any other questions before we sign out of this meeting? Okay. Liz, Heidi, we'll go ahead and we'll get signed into the executive session.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, this link will stay open for those that are in the regular meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes, so give us just a moment, Mr. Mayor, while we go live and hit record.
Okay, we're good now.
Uh,
Yes, we're live and ready, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, yeah, there. Whoops, yeah, I see it just popped up there. Okay, excuse me. Okay, we are out of executive session with no action taken. Unfortunately, we also lost our quorum, so we are unable to continue the regular meeting. And we have no choice but to go ahead and adjourn the meeting at this time. And that's all we can do. We don't have a quorum, so we will be back at our next regularly scheduled council meeting. That's it. That's all we got. I'm sorry. Don't have any more comments. Okay, you guys. Have a
Thank you,
good
Mr.
night.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good night.